Okay. Anyway, I was born in France and been writing since I was like really, really young. Um, my mom often shows me pictures that I do not remember of me as a child holding like picture books that I've made and stuff like that. I published my first book August 1st in 2022. The reception has been very humbling and amazing, and I'm very excited to keep going. I met Lee on Instagram through writing accounts, and I'm very impressed with her. So you can go next.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, but yeah, I'm Lee or Aleena. I go by both, but I'm Lee on Instagram. And I'm the founder of the Authors of Tomorrow, and I'm also the co-founder of Limelight Review, which is a literary magazine dedicated to disabled and neurodivergent people. We actually have our first issue coming out on the 22nd, so if you want to read it, that would be cool. I currently live in New York, and I'm about to enter my senior year, but I'd love to study creative writing and history in college. And when I'm not sharing my writing journey on Instagram, I'm usually outlining some tragic novel, learning more history, or I'm drinking an absurd amount of cranberry tea. It's a part of my personality at this point. But yeah, that's us. So next, we're going to go over what we like to say, and that is publishing and why you shouldn't rush to do it, even if it is a cool thing. The power of social media and the prejudice that young writers face. So we're gonna start off with this quote because I like this quote. Um, Lou, do you want to read it?
Oh, okay. Nothing comes as an accomplishment instantly. Success does not come overnight. Patience is key. Grow up and be the tree, but remember it takes dry and wet seasons to become a fruit bearer, achiever, and impact maker.
And this leads into our. Oh wait, hold on.
That's a slide I don't like.
Not yet. Yeah, that's the one she didn't like, but we'll wait a little longer. But basically, here I want to talk about the rush to publish, and that's something you don't have to do. You don't have to feel pressured to crank out a book, to edit that book as fast as you can, and then to edit it, whether that be traditionally published or self publish. I know that recently, with the rise of like authors on social media, there has been a lot more of a push where authors show like, hey, I did this by a certain age and I've accomplished this and I've accomplished this and I've accomplished this. And that kind of atmosphere, while it can be encouraging, it can also lead people into a mindset of, oh, I have to do this first. I have to do this by a certain age. So just keep in mind you don't have to do that. You have to take it at your own pace. Lou and I have had some very long conversations
It's mostly
about
me reassuring you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Had some very long conversations about authors that utilize their platforms to kind of, brag instead of encourage.
It's not even bragging. It's instilling the mindset that you have to do something by a certain age in order for the achievement to mean anything. And I think that it comes from a bigger problem where, especially in the United States, I feel people have a very competitive mindset, and competition leads to comparison and vice versa. And because people are constantly comparing themselves to each other, there's a sort of race mentality to it where if you do it first, you've done it better. Whereas that is obviously not the case. Um, because of that, there's this pressure, not just in writing, but in everything, that to do as much as you possibly can in the shortest amount of time. And that translates into needing to be the best by a certain age, um, which I think is more anxiety inducing than anything. And that's, not a good thing. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. So in summary, don't rush yourself. You don't have to rush. Take your time, focus on your craft. I was looking through Instagram stories yesterday, and I'm probably gonna mess up her name, but Leigh Bardugo. Sorry if I
yeah,
messed
no,
up.
that's it.
Okay, cool. Um, but I saw on her story that somebody had asked, "Do you have any advice for young writers?" And I actually really loved her response because she said, "Excuse me," she said, "Your talent does not have an expiration date." And I think that's important. So remember, your talent doesn't have an expiration date. You're not going to be a worse writer if you publish later. You're
Probably
always
be
going to
better.
have an opportunity. Um, but yeah, so take your time. Don't rush. It's okay.
Also, like the quote says, it takes time to develop. And I think a lot of people who rush, who let the anxiety that I talked about push them, it also puts them in kind of a cage, because when you're anxious, you can't create as well. That's just an objective fact. Like psychologically speaking, when you're anxious, you you 50% of your energy is going toward thinking about those anxious thoughts, and then the other 50% to what you're doing. So you can't put in 100% to practicing writing or writing your book or anything like that. Also, I feel like people think that they, not that they don't need practice, but they think that the actual act of writing their book is practice, whereas you can't do that, because if you write only one project, you're going to get confined by that project, and you're not going to be able to make it the best version of itself if you don't practice things outside of it. So the rush to publish all across the board is a negative thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I agree with not confining yourself to one project, because I actually did that for a time, but it is more fun also if you tend to branch out and have a
Yeah,
few different things to work
absolutely.
on. Yeah.
Also, you get a feel for what people like, especially if you publish to the like on sites like fan fiction sites or Wattpad or anything like that. You get a sense for what people gravitate towards in your writing style and what they might not gravitate towards, and that can help you write for a certain audience.
How many opposites and parallels readers are here right now?
I'm sorry?
I'm wondering how many opposites and parallels readers are here right now.
Oh, a few probably. A lot have been
um,
yelling at me in comments.
okay.
Me, there we go. There's one.
So here's the slide that Lou hates.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
look at it. Who in their life has ever said that?
I typed it, so I guess I said
This is
it.
unrealistic dialogue, Lee.
Look, here's the thing. It is cool, but it's also not cool, which is why we're going to talk about it.
You know what? I'll take it as that. It's a satirical quote.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, you do that.
I like it. I like it if it's a satirical quote. Go ahead.
Alright, it's satirical. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So here's the thing. Social media is a great tool. It is extremely helpful if you want to be an author, but here's the thing I say to everyone. It's not the defining factor. So somebody may think, if I don't have like a million followers on Instagram, nobody's gonna buy my book, and I'm not gonna be a bestseller. That's not true. Um, which that also means, um, sorry, but you don't have to have a million followers in order to become a successful author. Social media is really useful because you can have people that become interested in your books, but it's not the make or break. So, for example, you can post things about your stories, you can gain an audience, you can do all of that stuff, but you don't have to feel pressured into doing this. You don't have to focus so much on the numbers, because the numbers are just going to be another thing, like Lou said, that kind of put you in a state of anxiety, like, oh, if I do, I have this amount of followers, do I have this amount of likes?
It's the
um,
competitive mindset again. That's all it is. But you're competing with yourself at that point.
yeah, a lot of it, yeah, is competitive, but again, you don't have to feel pressurized into doing it. It's a tool, not the make or break.
It's also kind of a double-edged sword, social media, in a way, because you have to remember that social media is designed to keep your attention as long as possible. It's strategically made and engineered by people to keep you on a screen for the maximum amount of time that they can keep you there, because that's how they sell ad time and that's how they make money. So when you're being a creator, you have to keep in mind that the content you make, the reason it will reach a larger audience isn't because it's good, it's because it's keeping the attention from as many people as possible as long as possible. That's all the algorithm, that's all it is. It's just a line of computer code that shows your videos to people that they think will keep them there for a long time. So even if you have a TikTok, for example, that doesn't get as many views as you want it to, but it gets, a little bit more engagement or saves or whatever, if it shows your story in the correct light, you've probably gained more readers from that video than a video that gets a million views but gets no actual interaction. So you have to think about that as well. You also have to think about the fact that social media is addictive, both from a creator and a consumer mindset. So I've fallen into this. Don't become addicted to the numbers because it goes two ways. Don't become addicted to getting higher numbers, and don't become addicted to seeing them as well. Does that make sense? Like, it's also not the end all be all, like you said, because plenty of people get book deals without social media. It's just that nowadays, since a lot of people spend most of their time on Instagram and TikTok, it's appealing to publishers. But I got rejected by a lot of agents, and I have a pretty large social media following, so it's really not the end all be all.
Yeah, it all comes down to the story itself.
Hmm.
It's all that
Absolutely.
matters.
Also, keep in mind, they're like, I've spoken to a lot of agents. What they're doing is risky, because you don't pay them. They make money based on if you make money, and they are a business. That the publishing industry, like, as much as they claim to be passionate, and I assume a lot of them are, they are a business. Their goal is to make money. They are only going to take you on if you are a low risk client and they can sell you to people. If you, even if your story is like amazing, if they think you are difficult to sell, that's less of an incentive to take you on. That makes sense. So that's why also we talked about like self-publishing. If you do have social media, is actually a kind of a good idea, because you can prove that you're able to sell, and then you have a much lower risk factor and more people want to take you on. So you can't feel intimidated by any of that. You just have to kind of jump in.
I agree. Um, yeah, that's social media. Lily doesn't like the slide, so I'm gonna take it away from her.
It's chaos. It's not at all logical. It's insane.
Again, don't swept up with the numbers. It can be easy to find yourself distracted by like the follower and like count. But have fun with it. Post what you want, and just remember to take care of
Yeah,
yourselves when doing
it's
it.
fun. It is. Like,
It is
talking to people
fun.
about it, that's the best part, is when you get
Yeah.
comments asking what it's about. I'm so
Yeah.
bad at talking about what my book's about, though. So it's a little anxiety provoking, but it's fun to just come up with ideas and make them. And it is a creative process, just like writing. So it
Yeah.
can be very entertaining.
Yeah. It is really nice though when you get people that are like, I can't wait to read your book. So
Yes, it's incredible.
honestly, all of like the downsides and stuff, it's worth it when you have supportive people that come forward to say they like your stuff.
There are only downsides if you let them take advantage of you.
True. Prejudice against young writers.
Boy.
No, not cool, not fun at all. So honestly, I'm gonna be honest. At some point in your life, you're probably gonna have somebody that will doubt your writing abilities. I
Oh,
have,
all the time.
yeah, all the time.
It's gonna happen all the time.
Started at the very front of my journey. I told one of my best friends at the time that, yeah, I want to be a writer, and her mom was like, "Oh, what's your backup plan?" I was like, "What
I don't think
backup
that's a
plan?"
reflection of you. I think that's a reflection of people's prejudice of the profession itself.
Yeah, that too,
Yeah.
which also stinks.
Yeah.
Um, I do remember though one specific incident that will stick with me for a while. I made a post one time, and it was how I wrote almost 3 books by the age of 16. I think I was 16 at the time. And the comments.
I had to fight so many people, bro. That's that comment section was atrocious.
It was weird.
I,
I think I still have some of them saved, but the ones I could think of on the top of my head were great practice, but a book written by a 16-year-old will never be readable.
yeah, I
I think
remember
the
that one.
agents I queried begged to differ. I got some good comments from them. What else? Step one, come from a rich family so you never have to work a day. I come from a humble family. We're not rich by any means, but we are grateful to have what we have. And to assume that, it's just not fun. What else? Oh yeah, yeah, but are they good books though? If I didn't think they were good books, I wouldn't talk about them. But how I overcame that was I remembered I'm doing this because I love it and I see myself having a future in this and I'm proud of what I did. You should never be ashamed of talking about what you are proud of. There's always going to be people that are going to come at you for that, um, but don't
It's
let it
also
get.
cultural. Like,
Yeah,
it's very different in every culture. The value of humility. I think that a reason that if there's any French people in the comments, you'll agree with me, or Europeans. It's the United States is a lot more not bragging, but like success oriented, where you want to talk about your individual success. Whereas I come from, it's more of a community line. It's like that in a lot of Asian countries too, like especially Japan, where if you talk about your success, it's very frowned upon, which is why it's a kind of a little bit, the thing is, on social media, this kind of coming full circle, on social media, the videos that do well or the content that does well is when you talk about your success, because people want to emulate that because it's a comparative atmosphere. So you end up getting more people aware about your book if you do talk about your success. But it's very hard for me, I'm not going to lie, because it feels cringy, for lack of a better word. Like talking about your own success, I'm like, like, and my mother was telling me, she was like, you shouldn't post things like that, and I was like, I agree. But you know what I mean? And even though you shouldn't be ashamed at all, but everybody might have a different opinion about whether or not you should talk about your success. Especially what bothers me isn't, like, for example, you wrote 3 books. That's not even bragging to me. You're talking about your craft and how you got there and everything. But people who talk about like monetary success through book writing, or they talk about the amount of book deals or movie deals, or they exclusively talk about the success that they have personally, not even just through the book. That's when it gets to a point where you're kind of instilling that toxic mindset in your audience that, you know, they have to have all that in order to be successful. I'm sorry, but if you write a chapter a day, you are more successful than I am already, because I can't do that. You know what I mean? So you have to measure success in your own light. And then again, talking about it might not be comfortable for everyone, but perceiving of other people's success, you should kind of just be happy for them or move on. People who commented those things are either envious, jealous, or they're just bitter, you know, and you have to ignore them.
But it's important to remember that it really doesn't matter in the long
Doesn't
run. Like
at all.
in
Yeah, no,
10
and
years,
yeah.
when you're living as an author and you're doing all of your amazing things, which I'm sure a lot of you will be, because I'm sure you're all very talented.
Mhm.
But when you're doing all those things, those comments literally will not matter. They will have
Exactly.
zero impact on your life. They will not change the course of your life, so they don't matter.
Also, they're not real. People have a tendency to like that this is something, it's like the most simple sentence ever, but this is something that has helped me like overcome anxiety around writing. Your thoughts and your self-doubts and the comments people put out there, they're not real. Like, there is no concrete proof that you are a bad writer because someone says it. It's not quantifiable. Same thing with your anxious thoughts. If you're like, oh, this was like a crappy day of writing, that's not actually true. Like, you just think that, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to remember that too.
So, in summary, yeah, you might get prejudice and hate sometimes, but it does not matter. Keep your head
Also,
up.
people, yeah, going full circle again, you're a riskier investment if you're younger, because people don't think you'll go through with things. Might not be true, but
As Wrecker for a second there.
yeah.
All these investments now? Okay.
Hey, you know why I don't like him.
Well, I thought you guys were the same personality type.
No, that's why I don't like him. Guys, I love Six of Crows, but for the longest time I thought I didn't like it. It's not. I just don't like Kaz.
Oh.
That's the only.
So, prejudice. Doesn't matter. Ignore it. And now, time for a Q&A, because Q&As are fun.
I love Q&As. I always
Yeah.
ramble. Can you stop moving?
Okay, so you guys, our lovely audience, can start asking questions in the chat, and then they will answer some of them. But you guys did wonderful. That was a great presentation, by the way. Okay. Do you guys have a writing playlist?
Yeah, I don't use it. But my Spotify is Lancali. Everything I own is like Lancali. Any form of media that you think I might have, that's the name.
I have a playlist. I think I have one for every book I either plan to write or have written.
That's good.
It's a mess, but I love it.
I think a good question for like this topic, the whole keynote, is when did you guys start writing?
It's like 4. Nice. There's pictures of me as a 4-year-old writing picture books. So
I think I started writing when I can remember around 6. But then I started taking it seriously in 2019. So seriously, almost 3 years.
yeah, me too. I'd say I started taking, the problem is like, you know, everybody tells you that writing isn't sustainable. So I used to always have a backup plan. But I started seriously writing around 2020, like very taking it seriously in terms of I wanted to publish, and it wasn't just something I did for fun.
Yeah.
Was the environment you grew up in supportive of your writing journey?
No, not at all. It's just, I think again, like, your environment has a big effect on you, but my entire family are either like academics or athletes or business people, and they're all like very successful. And because of that, they emulate, success in academic fields or in business or in athletics. So I was never encouraged to be successful in a creative field because nobody thinks it's sustainable. Nobody thinks you can be successful. They all think it's very subjective. I proved them wrong. It's fine. But
Yeah, my family is very supportive of it, even though they do encourage, like, like have something to back you up just in case, because we don't want you to like live under their freeway and tell riddles for money.
yeah, same energy.
Yeah. They obviously encourage me doing my best to become a writer, but honestly, outside it's been very difficult. They're like,
Yeah,
"What's
my
happening?"
parents are supportive now, but I want to make it clear that the people who are supportive of me and my family only became supportive once I had success. And I want, like, that's a very good distinction to make, So
How do you guys deal with burnout?
I don't really get burnout that much. I'm not, I feel like I'm a very energetic person. I'm always hyperactive. I just read when I feel like, if you're talking about like writer's block and about like feeling like you can't write, just read. It always takes me out of it. So I don't know about you, Lee.
I'm actually having burnout right now, which stinks. But something that I tend to do is I go back and I read the books that I've written before, even if they're not completed. Like there's one book I started, I think last year in November, and I got like 20,000 words into it. But I kind of just read it and I was like, oh, okay, so I'm actually a decent writer. And I don't know why, it kind of just inspires me, like, see, you can do this. And then I usually sit and I'll try to write at least a few words a day. If I'm having burnout, not like thousands of words, even if it's like sorry, even if it's like 200 words, that's still 200 words more than yesterday. So yeah, kind of just trying to motivate myself.
Yeah.
I think this is a good question too. If you're nervous to share your work, where would you suggest like a good place to share it would be?
How are you, like, are you nervous about getting like an audience? Because anywhere you share it, you're going to be subjected to an audience. I talked to Lee about this. The second you put your work out there, you have to kind of have a thick skin. You
Yeah.
it is impossible that 100% of the people who read your work will be 100% happy with what you write. That has never happened in the history of writing for any work ever. So you kind of just have to do it. I know that sounds really harsh, but in my opinion, there's no work around that. You can filter comments, but
Okay, and then I think our last question is going to be, if you're passionate in writing, is it still worth pursuing?
like not passionate.
Sorry, if you're not passionate in writing, is it still worth pursuing if you enjoy it?
No, I just don't think so.
Okay.
If it's not something you're willing, because writing something that requires a lot of dedication, so if
A
you're
lot of
not like
work. Yeah.
willing to sit there and really like devote yourself to doing it, I don't know,
You can
then
hobby
it's
write.
just something else. Like
Yeah.
maybe if you want to do it like on the side once in a while, like that's cool, but if you want to like, you don't have to worry about really devoting yourself if it's not something you're 100% passionate about.
I mean, there's some people that just write for money, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you're upfront that that's why you do it. Um, you can do that. It's just that I think that it's very difficult to write 100,000 word book if you're not passionate, because it's a lot of work. It's a commitment. It's a relationship. You
Once in
have to
your
go
life.
through with it. Yeah. I mean, you can drop out at any point, but I think it's passion the lack of passion that makes you stop. So.
Yeah.
And then I said last question, but this is like the real last question, just
Okay.
like a fun, light one.
Yeah, sorry.
Wait, no, you're all good. What's your favorite book?
Lee, what's my favorite book?
Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Um,
I bought it for her.
yeah, it's right here on my shelf.
Yeah, you still haven't read it.
I have read it. I finished it.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, I had no news of this, and I'm
Oh,
insulted.
my bad. I have a few favorite books. I don't know if I could ever really pick one. Can I give like a very short list? Because that would hurt me to pick just one.
Very short.
Very short. All
Top
right.
three. Top
The
three.
Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Portrait of a Thief, If We Were Villains, Circe, The Kingdom of Back, Song of Achilles. I Fell in Love with Hope. Go buy it right now, or I'll come to your house and steal your fridge.
My marketer.
What else? Oh, and Shadow and Bone, because it's just a classic.
Okay. Well, I
Went a
think
little past 3 there.
I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for doing the
Right.
presentation. It was really good. And again, we're going to be having our writing platforms panel in about 15 minutes. And do you guys have anything you guys want to say before we close it off?
This is
I want to
fun.
thank everybody for coming because I
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Lee, change the slide.
Yeah.